Alright, so what's up guys, it's Zero here, and today I'll have for you my deck profile for Glendios. So I've already made like 2 separate gameplay videos for this deck, but the deck that I'll actually be covering is the more beatdown deck, the deck that doesn't even try to go for world end. So don't expect that. Don't expect to go for world end with this list I'm about to show you. So without further ado, here's the list. Look, and this is the list that I play if I'm just looking for Glendios and I'm not trying to world end people. I'm just trying to win the game. So this is the quote-unquote the more beat down version of the deck. So again, we'll just go from top to bottom, explain all the cards, why I play why I play X cards, and yeah, the usual. So first off is the starter, the World Line Dragon. I think I don't even know if it's called World Line Dragon. People call it World Line, but his skill is Vanguard or in Soul. So at the start of your turn, or right base or whatever, I don't remember. Like at the start of your turn, if you're not on grade 3 yet, so if you're a grade 2 or lower, you can discard 1 reverse unit to check top 5 cards of your deck, add any card within those top 5 to your hand. So if you can throw away like a grade 3 and grab like a PG, an intercept, a different grade 3. And then the last line of text is, if the card you added was a reverse unit, you create a copy of that unit to put back into your deck. So, if you grab a reverse unit with the World Line's effect, you don't lose the trigger out of your deck because you add it to hand and you put one back into your deck, so you don't lose the trigger. So yeah, very good. This is like half the reason this deck is so good. The starter is absolutely amazing. Yeah, very good. You would not play. There's no other starter that's nearly as good as this card in Link Joker. Yeah. You 100% play this, no questions asked. Every other starter is not nearly as good as this, especially in Glendios. Off to grade 1s, PG. It's PG. Link Joker doesn't even have the choice of playing old PGs. They only have this. So yeah, PGs you play 4. Next is the Ruin Magician, and in my opinion, the most important grade 1 in the deck. The first skill is Rearguard Circle on play. You counterblast 1, and you salvage or I guess the actual text, you add a reverse unit to your hand equal to the number of reverse units on the board with different names. So for example, if you play her down and you have 1 reverse unit on the board, you can add 1 reverse unit from your drop zone back to your hand. If you have 2, you add 2. You have 3, you add 3. If you have 4, you add 4, and that's the max you can add because it counts for rear circles only, not your Vanguard. So yeah. Yeah, this card's very important because this deck lives and dies by having the reverse units, and this card can just grab them off and drop back to your hand. So a lot of times what you do early game in this deck is you dump the reverse units out of your hand with the World Line, and then you just add another one to your hand. The World Line creates one, puts it back to the deck, and then you cycle through that for like 3 turns until you're at grade 3. And then once you play down a few reverse units, if they don't kill it, or if they don't kill it and you play like 2, you can play this down and grab the 2 you ditched early on back to your hand, stuff like that. So yeah, very important, very important. This is by far the best grade 1 in this deck, and that's why I play 4. And then the other grade 1s, this is the Rubidium, I think is his name. So his skill is on play. If your Vanguard is specifically Glendios, you can retire him to give one of your reverse units intercept. So this just gives you this card kills on play. Basically, a simpler term, on play, kill itself, give a reverse unit intercept if your Vanguard's Glendios. This card's good because Glendios makes your reverse unit 16k. So your opponent, unless they have retire, which they probably do, because most decks do have retire at this point, or the good decks at least, they deal with a 16k intercept, and yeah, they're just good. I only play 3 because I do think the other card in this deck needs to have extra space, and this card at the end of the day is still a -1 because you play it down just to retire to give your thing intercept. So yeah, this card is good for what it does. You do want to see like 1 or 2 copies of a game, 1 to 2 copies of every game. So that's why I play 3 of it. And yeah, play 3 of this. Definitely play around the ratios between this and this grade 1, which is the counter charger. His name is too long for me to remember, nor do I want to say it. So yeah, his skill is on play. For every different reverse unit on your board, you get to countercharge 1. So, just like the Ruin Magician, if you have 1, you unflip 1. If you have 2, you unflip 2. You have 3, you unflip 3. If you have 4, you unflip 4. So yeah, very good card. Very good card. Well, the reason I only play 2 of this card is because realistically speaking, you only need to resolve 1 of it per game. or rather one. You need to resolve him once if he's unflipping 2 cards. So yeah, this card is a card you want to see 1 to 2. This is basically a card you only need to see 1 of it once to unflip, and then you usually have enough counterblast playing after that. So yeah, so I have to play 2 of it. But if you think you need more of this, you can definitely cut down on this to play more of these. But I think the only card that you absolutely have to play 4 of is the Ruin Magician, because this card is by far the best grade 1 in the deck. So yeah. Next up, the grade 2s. I have no idea what this guy's name is either, but his skill is Vanguard Rear, so he works on Vanguard like the grade 1s. On hit to Vanguard, if your Vanguard is a Star Vader, and he himself is a Star Vader, you can counterblast 1 to search your deck for any reverse unit. So this card is just a +1. You are ripping a trigger out of your deck, but he is a +1, and this deck needs its reverse units to play the game, so you're grabbing important cards too. So yeah, at worst you can like use this, grab a reverse unit and toss it for something else on the next turn with the World Lance. Yeah, very good card. I would not play less than 4 of this card in this deck. Next up is the Colony Maker. First skill is on play. If you don't already know, on play, if your opponent has a locked card, CV1 to call any grade 1 or lower Star Vader from your deck to your board. Grade 0s don't exist in this game, at least in your deck, so you should only be calling grade 1s. Yeah, she can just tutor any of your grade 1s, so she can tutor out the Ruin Magician, the Rubidium, the Unflipper. Although most of the time you're usually tutoring out either the Ruin Magician or the Rubidium. Yeah. I only play 3 of her, I only have 3 of her, but realistically I don't think I play the 4th either, just because I want room for other cards. Yeah, this card is okay. This card's okay. You can definitely resolve her more often in this deck than in something like Chaos, just because your way of blocking is free on counterblast, so you actually have the counterblast to use her multiple times a game. You like her a lot, you can definitely play her at 4, but she is still conflicting with the counterblast with this grade 2, the Ruin Magician, and the Glendios. So that's why I think 3. Honestly, I think 3 is enough in this deck too. The last 4th slot is the Krypton. He's just a vanilla. I play him because there's not really a whole lot to play. Counterblast, even with the countercharger, can still be a little tough. That's why I don't play the Cold Death. And Cold Death is also really awkward early because sometimes your opponent just puts a board up for you to deal with. Cold Death is an 8k. So yeah, and you have to commit a booster, and all your boosters have on-place effects that you don't really want to use until you ride up to grade 3. So yeah, I've definitely played with it in this deck, but in a deck that's not focusing on World End, I don't think Cold Death is very exquisite in 8k. So yeah, that's why you should play this, because if you don't ride this is your next best ride. It's a 10k base ride, stops aggro, or can stop aggro, and 10k rears are pretty good when your opponent has no back row a lot of times. So yeah. Yeah, just the 10k vanilla. And last lot is the 2 Singularity Snipers. First goes on hit to Vanguard. If your opponent already has a locked card, you can lock another card. You can use her to lock additional back row. You can use her to lock grade 3s or grade 1s in the front if your opponent has to commit and be bad like that. But yeah, there's a cool tech. Just again, 8k body really sucks. If this was not, I'd probably play 4 of it, but 8k body really sucks, and yeah, that's why I only play 2 of her. And onwards to the grade 3s. Next up is the main ride of the deck, or the only ride of the deck rather, Omega Glendios. So his first skill is Limerick 5. At the start of your turn, your opponent has 5 locked cards, you win the game. This build does not focus on that, so this skill might as well not exist, but it's there in case your opponent's scared of it. This is like, and it looks like this is more of like a mind game kind of thing, just because you're always hitting them, but like they always have to be mildly concerned about this, that if they commit too much of a force, they could just randomly lose the game. So yeah, that. And then his other skill is once per turn, Limerick 4, counterblast 1, discard 1 reverse unit to Omega lock your opponent's rear. So you know how rear to Omega lock the current rears, and any rears that are locked after that on that turn. So this is hard. I don't know how to explain this. You don't, but you know how regular locks, they unlock at the end of your turn. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. If a unit is Omega, they unlocked at the end of your next turn. So say it's my turn, I Omega lock. I use this Limerick 4. I Omega lock the stuff that you have locked. Let's say I hit you, pass turn. You draw for turn. You do your turn. Your units normally there would unlock, but since they're Omega locked, they stay locked until your next turn. So yeah, that's how that works. That's how this works. So this applies to any locks you do on your turn. So for example, if you use this skill during the main phase, because that's when you use it, and you Singularity Sniper like a back row, that back row, that Singularity Sniper locked is now an Omega lock. So it doesn't unlock at the end of their next turn. At the end of their turn, it locks at the end of their next turn. So yeah, it applies to all locks on that turn. Same with Cold Death, stuff like that. This is how like the alternate win con even works because of Fizz Limerick 4. And his last skill is, and it was his second last skill rather, is once per turn, when your reverse unit is placed on rear, you randomly omega lock one unit at random, prioritizing your opponent's back row. So yeah, this is like the cheapest lock in the game, and this is actually how the deck like wins games, because you just consistently lock their back row, making it so they need to commit boosters. Eventually, they will need to commit non-intercepts in front to hit you if they're trying to go for game stuff like that. So yeah, this is like the reason you play the deck, because you just omega locking everything just in the back row is just really cool. And if they don't put anything in the back and they just put something in the front, you get to lock their front row for free, which is really cool, really good. But don't expect that to happen just because most good players, or most players in general, should know how to play around this, or should know how to play around this. But when it does happen, it happens, and they cry because they're bad at the game. And then his last skill is your reverse units get 5k power, so this is at all times, your turn and your opponent's turn, and they cannot be locked by opposing card effects. So yeah, this skill here basically says other link decks cannot lock the reverse units. So if you're playing as Chaos, just field up of all reverse units, and they can't lock your front row anymore. Yeah, overall solid card. And it's not like amazing or anything, but the omega locking back row gets really annoying if it goes off the game that goes on too long. So yeah. Okay, and the reason I play Glendios on heal is because with their reverse units, which is every other grade 3 unit in this deck, I usually want those cards in my hand, and I want multiples of those cards. The thing with Glendios is that I only want one Glendios ever. I would rather the rest stay in the deck, so that's why I play the Glendios on heal. I only need one Glendios, but I need multiple of other reverse units. So yeah. And then the final card that actually has an effect is the Cradle, the Starbaiter reverse Cradle. Vanguard skill is irrelevant because you never want to be on anything that isn't Glendios, but his skill is Limerick 4 once per turn. If your reverse unit is placed on rear, you lock a random card prioritizing back row, so it's like Glendios, but this is a regular lock and not an omega lock, and he gets 5k for that turn. So yeah, you never ride anything that isn't Glendios in this deck. If you don't have Glendios, you stay on grade 2, because this thing doesn't do anything on Vanguard as far as I'm concerned. And then his other skill that's actually relevant is on place. If your Vanguard is Omega Glendios, you can discard a copy of Omega Glendios to add a reverse unit from your drop zone to your hand. So yeah, he trades the extra Glendios in your hand into reverse units, which is why you play him. I only play him at 3. I only have 3, but I wouldn't play more than 3 just because because of all the stuff like the Ruin Magician and the Counter Charger that checks for different names. You need reverse units with different names. So yeah, some will even play only 2 Cradles, and that's honestly fine too. Like, Cradle is definitely a 2 to 3 of, definitely not a 4 of, but 1 of isn't enough either, just because he is still the only reverse unit that actually does something in the deck. So yeah, and the rest of these are all just here to be reverse units for their namesake. Like, these things are all, like, these things don't do anything in this deck. 11k vanilla, 11k vanilla, 11k vanilla, 11k vanilla, 11k vanilla, and 11k vanilla. You can play whatever you can play whatever reverse units you want in this deck, as long as they're different names. So yeah, so you can play, like, I play the 3 Cradles and then 6 different named reverse units. Yeah. And that's the list. I will say, I don't think this deck is very good, to be honest. It's very fun. To me, it's definitely the most fun deck out of the set, but competitive wise, I don't think this deck is very good. So definitely, if you're the type to care about how good a deck actually is, not just how fun it is, I would honestly stay away from this deck. I don't think this deck is very competitively good. Is it better than Chaos? Yeah, I think they're both like about the same, because like, lock's still a good mechanic. Eventually you will get to lock front row probably with this deck, but not as often as Chaos. So yeah, like they do different things, but around power level they're about the same, I would say. I think I'd honestly give the slight edge to Glendios, but honestly speaking, it's like, this deck is okay at best. Just like how Chaos is okay at best in the current meta on JP, just because Gold Paladin is everywhere. So yeah. That's about this deck profile. Then tell me what you guys think about it in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the good stuffs, and I'll see you guys later next time. And I'll see you after this too. Peace out.